Have you ever worked harder than everyone else and still watched others receive what you were chasing? Have you ever felt that money fled from you right when you needed it most, as if it could smell your desperation? Then you already understood that money does not reward effort. It rewards something you still do not control. Look at it coldly, neither with hope nor with desire, nor with that anxiety that eats at you from within, with coldness. Because this video is not about making money the way people usually present it, with magical formulas and hollow promises. It is about making money unavoidable in your life. And what is unavoidable is not something you chase in desperation through the streets. It is something you slowly and silently become. From the earliest moments of human history, the ordinary man has believed that wealth was a direct payment for effort, that working harder would be enough to earn more. He put in longer hours, moved faster, pleaded more intensely, and each time he did, he drove away the very thing he wanted most. Because effort without strategy does not create value in the market. It creates need. And need, for Machiavelli, has always carried the unmistakable smell of weakness. Machiavelli saw a brutal truth that most people never accept. Money moves toward those who govern their own minds, not those who bow before their own emptiness. Power, whether economic or political, does not answer emotional exposure to an open and wounded heart. It answers psychological scarcity, control, calculated distance. The system does not reward the people who work the hardest. It rewards those who project inevitability, those who become a presence that cannot be dismissed. This video begins from that principle. Money does not follow those who beg. It follows those who become impossible to overlook. And through this lesson, you will understand the hidden laws, the secret rules that draw wealth toward you, not through luck, not through the privilege of birth, but through deliberate mental construction. I am not here to teach you how to feel less financial anxiety or how to soothe yourself with breathing exercises. I am here to teach you how to stop being ruled by it, how to turn it into cold fuel. I will not offer you shortcuts that vanish at the first crisis. I will give you a strategy that endures for life. By the end, if you apply what you learn here, you will no longer be someone who runs after opportunities. You will become someone money recognizes from a distance, someone it moves toward. But before making money unavoidable, you must see with brutal clarity why it has always slipped away from you. The error of the common man is not a lack of effort. It is an excess of transparency. He shows too much, feels too much, exposes himself like an open wound waiting for someone to heal it. He turns every financial decision into a silent plea for validation, into a public confession that he needs to be chosen. And whoever explains himself, whoever shows need in every gesture, does not attract wealth. He repels it. Wealth has a sharp sense of smell for desperation, and it runs from it like one runs from a sick animal. The masses operate within a mindset of scarcity, always. They work as if the world were watching every move, but silently beg for recognition, with lowered eyes and outstretched hands. They live exhausted, believing that discipline is enough, when in truth the system teaches discipline precisely to keep them predictable, available, and cheap. Discipline without strategy is merely well-organized slavery. Economic fragility is always married to emotional fragility. It is always the same face, the anxious one who accepts any offer because he is afraid of losing the chance. The sensitive one who justifies himself when charging because he does not believe he is worth the price. The dependent one who is afraid of rejection and therefore sells himself cheap. The hard worker who confuses movement with progress and ends the day tired, but still in the same place. It is always the same pattern, the same pathetic dance. While he reacts, someone calculates. While he begs, someone creates scarcity. While he seeks approval, someone produces inevitability. Money does not hate anyone. It simply avoids everything that smells like need, everything that sweats urgency. And every time you show haste, fear, desperation, or anxiety, you signal to the entire world that you have no power. And wealth without psychological power never lasts. It may come by chance, by luck, by inheritance, but it evaporates like water in the hands of those who do not know how to hold it. The truth is simple and brutal like a blade. Whoever shows need pushes away. Whoever shows scarcity attracts. And there is something even more dangerous in this dynamic. Something few perceive until it is too late. Before continuing, do something. Now stop for a second and observe yourself at this exact moment. If what you have heard so far bothers you, it is because it touched the part of you that still lives in scarcity, that still begs in the shadows. If what you heard echoes, it is because another part has already understood the truth, but is afraid to change because change requires killing who you were. Now listen. Subscribe. Not because it helps the channel, but because each video here is a calculated step out of the mindset of the masses, away from the herd that grazes without realizing it is being led to the slaughterhouse. If you are here, it is because you are willing to abandon the old economic self that brought you to this point of silent frustration. And if you made it this far, it is not by chance. You have already entered the mental field. You have already crossed the first layer. Now you need to declare it. You need to mark this moment as a pact with yourself. In the comments, write just one sentence, without explanations, without context. I choose the cold mind. Writing is the first act of dominion over oneself. Whoever comments is not seeking approval from strangers on the internet. They mark the beginning of their psychological reconstruction, the vow of initiation into a new system of thought. It is the moment when you stop being a spectator and become a conscious participant in your own transformation. The rest is silence. And in that silence, an ancient law begins to reveal itself. A law that Machiavelli knew well and that the modern world has deliberately forgotten. The core truth of this video is simple, and you must carve it into your mind as if it were etched into bone. Money aligns itself with inevitability, not with effort. For Machiavelli, the inevitable is not the one who works longer, who sweats harder, or who sacrifices more. It is the one who governs the psychological field around him, who shapes perception before ever claiming territory. It is the one who radiates presence, value, and scarcity without needing to declare any of it. It is the one who makes his absence feel expensive and his presence inaccessible to just anyone, at any moment, for any price. Carl Jung would describe this as the symbolic field, the unseen domain where archetypes move and quietly dictate behavior. Machiavelli referred to it as the appearance of power, the mask that eventually becomes more real than the face itself. Today, we label it personal branding, posture, positioning, authority, but the label is irrelevant. The principle has remained unchanged since the first exchange of value between two individuals. Money interprets your mind before it evaluates your actions. When you display anxiety, money withdraws like a wild animal sensing an unstable predator. When you act with urgency, money watches and tests your limits, waiting for the moment you break. When you reveal desperation, money vanishes entirely, as if it were never there to begin with. But when you project scarcity, when you treat your time as something rare, your presence as something selective, your distance as something not easily crossed, money recognizes value. Because value is not communicated through polished words or impressive credentials. It is something you embody, something you breathe, something you transmit without conscious effort. Machiavelli grasped this more clearly than any modern economist armed with formulas and charts. Nothing that is given too easily is ever respected. And this principle applies equally to political alliances, social dominance, and material wealth. Money is psychological before it is physical. It gravitates toward internal order, not emotional instability. It follows those who can reject without hesitation, not those who accept everything with excessive gratitude. It responds to those who position themselves as a priority, not to those who beg to be chosen. 3 axioms structure this law like iron pillars. First, predictability is financial self-destruction. Whoever reacts like everyone else loses like everyone else, fading into the crowd as just another anonymous face. Second, economic power begins in the mind and ends in action, never the reverse. You do not act to convince yourself. You convince yourself, and then you act. Third, scarcity outweighs talent. The world pays a premium for what is rare and ignores what is abundant, regardless of how exceptional it may be. These are the hidden laws behind inevitability, the cold mastery of one's own mind, the silent discipline no one sees but everyone senses, the patient construction of presence as if building a cathedral, the strategic opacity that turns you into an enigma, and the capacity to make others feel they need you without you ever having to say it. When these laws align like interlocking gears in a flawless machine, wealth stops being something external that you chase and becomes something internal that naturally radiates from you. But to truly understand how these laws emerged, it is necessary to return to the moment when Machiavelli himself was broken. Imagine Machiavelli in his downfall, at the moment when everything collapsed. Betrayed by those he considered allies, accused of conspiracy, imprisoned, tortured with ropes that pulled his shoulders out of their sockets. He had served princes with loyalty, negotiated with popes in the corridors of power, maneuvered strategically behind the scenes of Florentine politics for years. But everything collapsed in a matter of days. He lost alliances that took years to build, a reputation that seemed as solid as marble, a freedom he believed was guaranteed. In the darkness of the cell, there was no audience to impress, no influence to exert, no power to demonstrate. Only physical pain, oppressive silence, and complete ruin. It was there, at the lowest point of his existence, when he had nothing left to lose, that he realized the truth that would shape all his future work. He had been too predictable, too valuable to only one side, too readable in his intentions. Those who betrayed him did not destroy him through brute force or intellectual superiority, but through the ease with which they could read his intentions, his values, his movements. He believed that effort and loyalty would be enough, that serving well would be sufficient to guarantee protection. He was completely wrong. Physical pain did not destroy his identity. It destroyed his illusion. It burned away the fantasies that kept him weak. In the cell, he abandoned the man who believed the world rewarded merit and goodwill. And there was born the man who knew that the world rewards inevitability and power, not intention. When he left, months later, he did not leave needy for approval or desperate to recover his position. He left unreadable, impossible to classify into simple categories. He left cold, with the emotional temperature of someone who has already died and been reborn. He left impossible to ignore, because he now carried something few possess: the mark of someone who crossed hell and did not beg for salvation. And this is exactly what the viewer needs to understand at this moment. Financial downfall is not divine punishment or bad luck. It is reading. It is precise diagnosis. It is a warning from the universe showing where you are vulnerable. It is a brutal revelation of the masks you were wearing without realizing it. You do not lose money when you fail in an attempt or when a business does not work out. You lose when you become too readable, when anyone can predict your movements, when your need is written on your face. And you only recover when you kill the version of yourself that the system has learned to predict, when you are reborn as someone the market can no longer manipulate. But how do this death and rebirth happen in practice? Now the abstract idea turns into applied execution, and execution requires precise coldness, not emotional excitement. First, remove financial reactivity. Do not accept proposals driven by fear of running out of options. Do not state numbers with insecurity in your tone, shaking internally. Do not display urgency in any negotiation, even if you feel it inside. Reaction generates predictability, and predictability erodes value the way poison works, slowly. When someone presents an offer, resist answering right away. Let silence operate. Say you will consider it. Even if your decision is already made, regulate when you respond. Second, intentionally construct psychological scarcity. Limit access to your presence, your time, your attention. Reduce how much you explain about your whereabouts or actions. Cut down on justifications for your choices and decisions. Anyone with excess availability signals low worth. Anyone who replies instantly communicates desperation. Third, never reveal need under any condition. Need is the strongest repellent of opportunity that exists. Control your expression like a professional poker player. Your voice like a trained performer. Your response timing like a military operation. The flow of dialogue like a conductor. Make the other person perceive that they need you more than you need them. Reverse the direction of need. Fourth, absolute silent discipline. Move without broadcasting your plans online. Build without exposing each phase of the process. Demonstrate outcomes without explaining the path taken. Discretion generates inevitability. Those who speak excessively about what they intend to do rarely follow through. Fifth, become strategically opaque. Do not disclose future plans to anyone who asks. Do not expose your real emotions as if you were in open therapy. Do not make your intentions and motives obvious. And everything that can be read can be exploited by those who know how to interpret it. Everything that cannot be read becomes dangerous and therefore valuable. People respect what they cannot fully decode. Sixth, create magnetism through selection. Choose which invitations you accept. Do not accept all of them. Choose which conversations you enter. Do not engage in all of them. Choose alliances carefully, like someone selecting rare stones from gravel. Power comes from what you refuse, not from what you anxiously accept. These strategies apply to business, relationships, online positioning, salary discussions, and career growth. The entire dynamic shifts when you stop pursuing and begin attracting, when you become the center instead of the edge. Money follows this shift. Money observes from afar. Money tests your composure. And money always aligns with those who do not plead, who do not undervalue themselves, who do not project desperation. But these methods are only the starting point of true transformation. There comes a moment after months applying the method when everything changes. The method stops being a conscious technique you force on yourself and becomes nature, a second skin. You do not pretend calm in negotiations. You are calm, the low temperature that controls the room. You do not react less by effort. You simply are no longer a reactive being who dances to the tune of others. You do not charge with fear of losing the client. You charge with presence, with the certainty of someone who knows their own value. You do not accept whatever appears. You select with criteria, like a collector selecting rare pieces. You do not search for opportunities in the streets like a beggar. You create a magnetic field where they arise on their own, attracted by your frequency. People treat you differently without you needing to ask. Opportunities find their way to you without you having to chase them. Proposals improve naturally. Conversations change tone. People listen to you more attentively. Doors that were once closed and locked begin to open effortlessly, as if obeying a silent command. Because money recognizes, with its primitive instinct, who has stopped being needy and has become inevitable. Wealth is no longer pursued like prey. It is summoned like an ally. And the inevitable does not beg for anything, does not chase anyone, does not compete desperately. It exists. And by existing with this psychological density, it is respected. You become the psychological fortress that the system cannot ignore, the element that does not fit into common categories. And when that happens, something surprising is revealed. You realize that you always had this power, but it was dormant under layers of social conditioning. Now only one step remains. Now you understand the complete structure, the mental map that few possess. Today you saw the laws that make money inevitable, the internal scarcity that projects as external value, the cold mind that controls the chaos around it, the strategic unreadability that transforms you into a valuable enigma, the posture that creates gravity and attracts instead of chasing. If this truth cut through you like a sharp blade, if you felt its weight in your chest, just write again in the comments. I choose the cold mind. Not as a common internet comment, as a pact. That is how transformation is sealed. That is how real training begins. Return to the next video when you are ready to continue, when you have fully digested what was revealed here. The rest is silence. Comment. Subscribe. The next videos are already on the screen. Continue your mental training.